Well, welcome to the next Founders Live Insider Talk. Of course, we record this for others that aren't here today. I know that we had to adjust this to a different time, or putting it in the evening time in the United States. So thank you all for being able to be here today. Really, this is an open up to just kind of chat about what you need help with, or let's maybe throw out some ideas of, if you have situation challenges, or even just want to kind of throw out a conversation that we can review. This is your all time to do that. So, feel free to, we can start with Brian, and then, Kelly's here as well. But Brian, did you have something that you wanted to, maybe just a question you wanted to throw out, a scenario that you wanted to really wrestle with or dive through, and I can give my thoughts and perspective?
Yeah. So I have started a business, and I got my first project with it, and things are running smoothly. It's looking like I'm going to be getting another project. Um, the issue that I'm running into is that, one, it's not a conflict of interest with my current corporate job, but as things progress, I'm running into the issue of what's the right time to jump off the cliff, so to speak.
This is a very, very great question, relevant to a lot of people that are going into working on their own company, their startup, working with another company in a more salaried position, and when is it time? So before we get into depth on that, could you provide a little more context on what the exact scenario is, just so there can be a bit more, so I can have a little more perspective on this, but also just laying out some context, whatever you want to share. Feel free to lay that out so it can be more helpful.
It's for construction management services, and the people that I'm working with my company are private clients. My corporate job, I provide services to public clients, and so that's the main differentiator. And really, I guess more the context though is, I guess there's a big fear, and a lot of people say this that I've spoken to about this is, health insurance, various insurances, benefits that you're giving up, things like that, and how to, what some of the best practices might be for things like notably health insurance as well, and as a freelancer, as a small business owner.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So let's kind of dive through this. And for those that have joined, and I see Luis is here. So Brian has asked the question around, essentially like, hey, I'm working on another thing. I also have a more full-time or previous job that I'm working at as well. When do I leave that to go more full-time into my new project in my new company? Brian, do I have it fairly correct?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I would say that, and by the way, I'm going to give my thoughts, but definitely, Kelly and Luis, definitely provide your thoughts as well, because this is a group thing. So, I think the things that you really want to think about, it's like I would say three, if not four things. First of all, you have to look at what you're, in terms of the project and really your, let's just call it the startup or the new company. Where are you at? This is a rhetorical question at this point, but where are you at in the process in terms of traction, growth, and adoption, that you feel like, are you convinced that you're like, are you seeing and are you convinced that this is something to leave a more secure situation, more consistent paycheck, to go and pursue. So maybe the better way to think about that is of the amount of time that I'm giving to it, whether it's, 1 or 2 hours a day, or 4 or 5 hours a day, or how many hours a week or a month you want to look at. Am I seeing the results that are proving to me, even just the founder, me, and then maybe anyone else that's associated, that there is legs to this, that it is actually moving forward, and there's something there that I can jump onto? Is it a horse that I can jump from one horse to another and I can ride it? That's number one. Is there traction? Are you convinced that, like right now? And hey, maybe it's a point where, I have a good feeling about it, but I'm not seeing the indicators yet. I'm not personally fully convinced. So maybe I ride it out for another, 3, 6, 12 months. Okay. Second thing to consider, and you've brought it up, is, really around, you've mentioned the health insurance aspect, and I'll even wrap that into, resources and financial. So I will drop into the chat. It's a company called IndiePop that really does focus on, it provides, aspect of health insurance that is for independent. So IndiePop, for contractors, independent people, like, and yeah, I actually utilize them. And she's a member of Founders Live. It's a subscription-based healthcare, and it allows you to. So I just put it in the chat for you. Awesome. And yeah, it's a nice solution for people like you, people that are like more independent, contract, that really it's made for, hey, I'm breaking away from the company I'm working for. I'm going to go jump into my own thing, and I need health care services. They're there for you. So hopefully that helps. And if you're listening to this, it's indiepop.co. It's awesome. And it's definitely something that can be helpful when you're looking at this. So, on the other side here is resources. So is there revenue being generated through this yet? Is it something where you've saved up enough in terms of, you got some savings, or you got you've taken care of the financial aspect, so that when you do leave this full-time position, the financial aspect is at least adhered to, and is not going to be a too big of a deal too soon. At some point, you're going to cross that bridge, and you're going to need to say, hey, are we making enough money? Can I pay myself? Is this a going concern of a business, and all that? So that's the second thing. And then the third thing is really around, I would just say, kind of above and beyond the first point, which was, do you feel like it's getting enough traction? Is this something that you are fully, like, where's your passion lie? Where's the direction? Like, do you see this as the direction in your life? Is this just like, I'm not excited about my full-time job, I want to go do something else? On what what level do you fit into, this is the direction in my life I want to take, and I'm just looking at the right timing to leave? Right. Like, is this my passion project? Is this what I want to see in the world? And I'm absolutely full bent. Like, that's basically, in terms of Founders Live, that was where I was. I was like, I'm making the leap because this damn right, this has to be in the world, and I'm going to go make it happen. There wasn't as clear financial aspect of that. I had to work on that, and we're still developing the business and all that. But it wasn't like I was jumping to something that's going to pay me hundreds of thousands of dollars, and I'm just going to go do it. This was something I wanted to see in the world. This is something that needed to happen in the world, and I just went and took a dive and made it happen. So where in all of that do you sit? So let's have Brian, if you want to respond to that sort of stuff, and then I would like to hear, after your thoughts here, let's have Kelly or Luis give perspective too. But I want you to be able to give some thoughts to some of my answers.
Yeah, thank you. I think that the analogy, jumping from a horse to horse, gaining that traction with the business. That answered my question in terms of timing. So I know what I need to do there. And then Indie Pop, while we were doing this, I just clicked on the link and just saw what it's all about. So I'm going to look more into that. Thank you for that. So really that helped quite a bit, you know, because I'm just like teetering, you know, I'm like, do I jump? Do I not yet? And it's something that I definitely want to bring to the world. And so something that I'm really happy with. And I think that, you know, this is going to change, hopefully, a bit of the dynamic just in the industry as a whole. But
yeah,
I do have another question, kind of a follow-up, is I'm putting together like a pitch deck, so to speak. Not necessarily for investors, but for partners. And I say that term in a loose way, but getting the pitch decks put together, like creating those graphics and all that stuff, I am terrible with. I'm an engineer. I'm a numbers guy. I'm not, you know, I can put together a square in PowerPoint, but do you have any recommendations on what route to go with that type of stuff?
yes, we do. Let's do, you know, this is a great question. Let's actually sideline this for a second, and we'll cover it, you know, at the last part of the call, because I think it's a slightly separate thread of conversation, and I know that I know that there's some other thoughts here, but it's a great question, and this is exactly what we provide in terms of services. Luis, I know, has thoughts, but Kelly, what would you, of the clients you've seen, or even in you know your own experience, what would you what thoughts do you have for Brian here?
I mean, I think the financial consideration is a big piece, and so depending on what you can do, can you take that leap and take that risk? But one thing that I noticed, so Brian, we haven't met before, but I'm an attorney with a boutique women minority-owned law firm that works in business law. So we work with a lot of startups from the early stages on. And I think the one thing that I see the difference when people are kind of doing something else on the side is how long it can take for projects to happen. And when you're busy with, and like, this is going to obviously be personal to you and kind of how you work, but that things don't, there's interruptions and things. And so that you're going to be spending money on things that might not actually come to fruition because you're going to get interrupted with your job and things like that. So when I see people are like fully committed to it, they've taken that leap, that you can be much more effective overall. And like, while you may be spending more time because it's now your full-time job, you're going to get a lot more results proportionally to that. So I think that's something to think about if you can financially make that jump. I've seen people at that point of trying to decide and like making that leap of it becomes like the return on investment is so high, but that doesn't always happen. But it can when you really fully invest in it. So that's kind of my thought on it.
Okay, thank you.
I would add a thought that just jumped in, you know, Kelly, that's great. You know, and this is definitely, you know, for anyone watching, you know, you might be going through this situation, which, by the way, Brian, you're in the right place. You've made the right decisions. You are evaluating a new business. You are still employed, and so you're making the right decision on just, you're looking at when you should jump. I think almost the wrong word is jump, although I did use that, like going from one horse to another. Think about it as you want to be pulled into your business. What does that mean? As you are building a startup and kind of, you know, especially on the side or nights and weekends, whatever the case may be, at some point you are literally pulled into it. It's demanding more of your time. there might be some financial resources now that are there. You need to expand and grow. You need to service your clients. You need to do whatever the case may be. You're going to get pulled in there. If you don't feel like you're getting pulled in yet, it's just not there yet, which is totally fine. You just got to keep going, right? And you're the only one that's going to know that timing, but you're going to get pulled. That also happened to me. I simply had more meetings, more calls, more things to do in Founders Live. And at some point you're like, I cannot juggle all of this. And so when you get pulled into it versus forcing the push or jumping usually is forceful. And a lot of times it's like what Kelly was mentioning is like, is the resources there? Is the timing right in terms of that? Getting pulled in is like, you're like, oh my God, this thing needs me. And you go there and you're going to go and you now are on that new horse riding it. So I think that might be a perspective to think about, is essentially like, am I getting pulled in? Allow the energy to pull you versus forcing the issue for reasons that might not be too healthy for the new venture. I think that would be a thought. So Luis, welcome to the conversation. And do you have thoughts for Brian here?
Thank you. Yeah, I came in a little too late to get full context, but I picked up on some of it, and I can give kind of a general suggestion in that I would say that consider the you want to take some steps to mitigate a little some of your risk here in a financial sense. That was a great point, Nick, to bring up on that second, your second point there. When considering the financial viability, some people will have like figure out what kind of runway they'll give themselves financially. Like, I've got 3 months of savings I can put into this before I'm out of cash, and I can't, I've got to look at other options. I think that whatever timeline you come up with, you might consider doubling, because stuff can take longer. Things can be, the world's going to throw a lot of wrenches at you, and you, if you're really into what you're doing, you're not going to want to give up, you just want to make sure that you have enough, more than enough to work with, because it's easy to underestimate that. I had another point, I can't remember it, but that's where I'll start.
Yeah, Brian, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I greatly appreciate the input. Kelly, you touched on the time thing, and it's been quite a challenge to balance the time commitments for both. When you put it in terms of being pulled into the business, that really struck a chord. I mean, the whole thing is organically, just serendipitously manifested. And so it's just kind of great feedback from you guys. Thank you so much. Doubling that time frame is something that I will be doing.
Yeah, I remembered what the other thing was. It's kind of like, I think there's a real allure to something that you are super passionate about, or that might even, maybe not you're super passionate about, but that you have, if you're a problem solver and there's a problem that the answer's around the corner, you just need more time to work on it, or you really like the people you work with, or the cause is something that you believe in. There's different reasons to be further and further hooked into what you're doing. And yet I think it probably makes sense to have ahead of time, if possible. And I know these things change as you go and your perspectives change as you go, but ahead of time, having some kind of like, look, if I get 3 months into it and this question isn't answered, I really have to reconsider whether it's for me or whether I need to find something else. These little points along the way where you're like, okay, advanced breadcrumbs, right? Where you like can say, okay, I told myself, if I didn't have health insurance by 5 months in, that's kind of a sign that, I got to reconsider something. Is it really going to happen or is it not? Those types of just little self checks where it's like, if I'm huffing the gas, I got to make sure that I'm, you know, when I was sober, I left that note for myself. I got to pay attention to sober self, you know? So, yeah, that.
Oh, okay. This is so good. Paying attention to sober self is a great way to really think about that. And some other, I think some other context here that I would share is like, you know, and again, these might sound on, I'm just trying to give perspectives given what I've experienced and what I've seen with other founders. Because there are other, the flip sides of the coin, right? But one thing to consider, and if you all are watching this or listening to this, one thing to consider also is when you have a consistent income as an employer, or sorry, as an employee, and you're working on something on the side, you are enjoying that consistent paycheck. Of course, with your business, you're working towards when do you get to the point where this thing is going to now generate income for you and it's dependable, and essentially at some point it's just your next job in some ways, right? But just know that you can't, like, the moment you leave that safe harbor of that income, you know, it's gone. And doesn't mean you can't go find it somewhere else, but you had something, it was consistent. If it's not the worst situation in the world, sometimes it is, and you're just trying to get out of it. Just know that, like, you have that, it's a one-time opportunity to you leave that employment with consistent income, and now it's the new game, and it's time to build this thing and grow this business, and it should be, or hopefully it's generating revenue and you're able to pay yourself and all that. But just know that, like, there's like a moment in time, it's kind of like, you know, point of no return, and be ready to make that decision, and know that, like I said, I think being pulled into that is a much healthier perspective and position than just making a jump and then 2 months later being like, oh shit, I jumped too early, and those can throw someone into a not healthy loop to the point where it can actually ruin your perspective, your psychology, and the business opportunity. Okay. So if you are in a position that you are working on something on the side, you have employment somewhere, and you're getting consistent income, enjoy that. And don't think of that as a negative, like, shoot, like I'm, you know, I think my next question to you was going to be, if you can describe, are you at the point where you're like, oh my God, like I'm overwhelmed, I cannot do all this stuff, like I need to literally choose one road or the other? Or are you at a point where you're like, this is okay, I can manage for another six months. I'm just really trying to figure out when the right time is to, you know, to really step into the full time in my own situation in business. Which one do you fall into?
I've got a few more months. I'm kind of bursting at the seams from a time management standpoint right now, but I can maintain this for some time and keep building a backlog and tee things up for the transition to be pulled in.
Cool. Yeah, I think that's a healthy, just be aware of that. Check in with yourself every month or two. Hey, where am I at? Am I getting pulled? You know, those are the things to consider. And then, you know, always know you can email me or message me for further, you know, hey, can I get your perspective on this again or whatnot? But I think you're going to know. And what I'm hearing is that not fully the right time yet. That's fine. That's great. Enjoy it. Hey, we are literally moving into somewhat of a downturn. We don't know what this looks like. So, you know, things change on a monthly now. And so the way I look at it is, you know, it's pretty much the end of June. So we're starting July, new quarter, new half of the year. My perspective is by September, October, we're going to have there's going to be a new flavor of things. What is that flavor? Is it down further and worse? Or is it, oh, okay, hey, it's a little, we're okay, we're okay, and we're going into the holiday season, blah, blah, blah. We don't know, right? So I think to me, it's a whole, like, pause, smell, sight, hear, look, touch, feel, get the sense of what's going on in the world, and just keep building underneath. That's my sense. So cool. Hey, Kelly, I want to, just give you an opportunity to, did you have a thought, question, comment, something that you wanted to, like, throw out to the group or grind on?
Yeah. So something I've been thinking about, so our firm started in San Francisco. I'm spearheading the Seattle, Washington operations. And I've been based in Seattle for a while, but I'm trying to kind of grow the firm's, like, people's awareness of the firm in the Seattle, Washington market. And so, like, certain things I do is, like, go to Founders Live events, and that's a really great thing, but I'm trying to think of other things. And our firm works with a business coach. And so I talked with him about it, and he was very big on, like, the digital marketing side, which Founders Live is as well. And it's something that me and Luis kind of talked about it a little bit too, of, like, writing articles, like, through LinkedIn, and then being able to share it through the Founders Live insiders and things like that. The problem I'm running into is just this, like, time management thing of, even though business development is a part of my role, it's a much smaller part of my role. And it's very easy to become kind of balloon very quickly of, like, oh, that's fun, or that's a cool person to talk to, or this. And so I'm at this point where I had this plan of, like, okay, I'm going to start writing these articles that talk to startups, things that are useful. But I haven't had the time to do it. And talking to certain people are like, yeah, I've never really done that. I didn't find it useful. And so, like, I'd love to hear kind of your all thoughts on the, like, is it more of, like, the in-person interaction, like the one-on-one connections, or hearing someone talk at a presentation, or does that kind of, that digital marketing aspect for someone who's a lawyer in different areas, I think it's much more, like, crucial, but I think legal services can be a little bit harder. So that's what I'm trying to play with, of, like, do I really just need to make the time to do this? And then, like, what's that frequency?
Yeah.
Because that makes a big difference. So that's something I've been kind of struggling with, of making happen. And so.
Yeah, this is a really good question. Really, really good question. And I know that I'm sure Luis has some additional thoughts on this, but, the way to think about it is, all right, so when we look at content creation, brand marketing, getting more exposure, essentially building out what is the voice of the brand. Okay. And a couple of thoughts come to mind here. You mentioned blog, right? And so writing. I would actually open that up to, what sort of mediums do we want to explore? And that could be, not just writing as a blog. That could be podcasts, could be show, could be a video sort of podcast, talk, whatever. And then I would go to, there's a higher level consideration here, which is, what do we want to put into the market and be known as, right? And so I think as a law firm, you have an opportunity to create, like, this, like, brand voice and be known for not just being, hey, we're a law firm, minority owned, female owned. Great. I mean, that's all great. You might be able to build around that further into creating, like, what is the larger brand around our law firm, and what do we want to be known as? And what's popping out is, like, what sort of, like, is there, like, a podcast that you would want to create that you could just have fun with? Okay, that's the first thing, right? Like, I was kind of hearing in your voice, like, and I know it's time, it's work. By the way, I used to write a lot more. I don't write as much because I don't have as much time, and I do view it as, like, it's a time commitment. we're doing, obviously we have podcasts, we do a lot of our video talks, we have our center stage stuff that we're building out and things of that nature. I would suggest that you take a kind of a step back and look at like, what is the message we want to be starting to send to the market? And then what vehicles do we use to do that? Obviously, being a part of Founders Live and having an active, you're doing a great job, and just continue to do that in the ways that make sense. But like in terms of specifically for the brand, is there a podcast show that can be created that you just literally you look forward to recording it every week or whatever, and it's fun, and you're just inviting one of your clients on, or a guest. I think the higher level here is, before you're like strategically like, oh, the podcast will be this and that. No, it's like, what's the point of the podcast? What's the point of our content creation? Then you're going to start to piece together who you might want to involve, how frequent is it, and then honestly, I can tell you right now, and I can share, like, I've got like this podcast doc that, I even put together when we started ours. Look, record it on Zoom, pull it in, and, edit it, cut it real quick. You end up getting that audio file. Does not take very long to like cut it if it's just an audio file. Hey, if it's a video file, you might use like iMovie, and you develop these skills. You can farm it out to someone to take over, and you pay them monthly for that. And then you're uploading it to the channels and all that. It's not that difficult. You just time wise, you figure out your schedule. But yeah, those are my high level thoughts. Is what is the brand voice you want to put out there, and why? Like, what is it kind of even goes to the core, like, is the values of your organization, the values of the law firm. You start sharing that stuff through the content that you're putting out. Could be writing, could be audio, could be video, and then start putting together what that process looks like, and who else is a part of it on the team, and then who you want to involve. And in the end, these should be fun things. You see with Founders Life, we create a lot of content, but it's organically and it's enjoyable. It's fun. Like, and I don't think you should be doing it if it feels like a laborious job. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? How does that sound?
I mean, I like the idea of doing things that you're like, it's not a chore, but it's something that you maybe are more passionate about. I think there is maybe some like wanting to try and write to an audience that's not a legal audience, of like, here's how to like explain this in a way that's interesting. I think the biggest thing is like, I have the topic, but I don't have like what the message is, and that like that theme for it. And so I think that's what I really need to set down. I think the idea of a podcast is fun, but I've seen people make podcasts, and I guess you can make it, like you're saying, like, I didn't even think about like doing Zoom, and that, like, to me, it's always been like, that's like out of the question, because there's too much work involved. But yeah, you get people that have like decent speakers or headphones, and you do it through Zoom, and it could be pretty easy. So I think I just kind of have some strategizing to do. One thing that I was thinking about, LinkedIn, it kind of seems like an easy platform. And so I was talking about doing like articles, but doing like short videos, like do like a 3-minute video, because that is more unique on the LinkedIn platform. Even though a 3-minute video can be very time consuming, but I think, again, I need to find that theme that I want to connect them all through. So I'm not like creating a bunch of new content, but like using it in different ways to be more efficient. So yeah, I think that's some great tips.
Yeah. And again, like, just, start with the high level, which is, what's organic to the brand? What do we stand for? What do we want to put in the market? If you're talking from your passion, it's not a chore. You're just creating content. And then the chore is really just finding the process of, getting the editing stuff together. And is it, side note, I was in, I'm in Bali right now, but I was in Manila, Philippines, for last week for some days, and I met with some people, and one of them was a VA, virtual assistant, and she was like, oh, like, with one of my clients, like, I'm doing the I basically do the editing of their podcast. I do this, and put it on the platform. And it's like $7 an hour. $7 an hour, everyone. So it not only can be done, if you're wanting to do that, it will be done. And so just thinking about the ways that you want to all go about this, and then I think in the end it is like thinking about of the time that you're putting in, is it giving the return not only personally but also like, okay, I spent X amount of hours on this a week. Are you like proud of it? Is it adding value to the organization? Is it falling into the on the website, whether it's a blog post or a podcast? And then are you pushing it out into like weekly communications? So it's just like organic to the brand, right? Luis, what are your thoughts on this sort of like, because this kind of falls into the stuff that we do as well, and basically you got to ask why are we doing this? What's the message, and how does it help people?
Yeah, those are all great points. Kelly, I like where you're going with this. There are other questions asked too, like who are we trying to reach? The people, what's the preferred way these people want to consume content? Where can you kind of optimize what you have to offer to what they want to hear on the platform that makes the most sense for that? LinkedIn really comes as a solution for a lot of these questions altogether. They are recently emphasizing their creator program. You can change your LinkedIn profile. You can add you can specify yourself as a creator. And if you post their optimal time or their minimum time 3 to 4 times a week, if you're doing video, that's like their top level. Original video content is like their high priority for algorithmic for the algorithm. So 3-minute videos 3 to 4 times a week, or 1 video a week augmented by a bunch of posts, as long as you have some level of consistency and just keep doing it, you'll find your groove, you'll find an audience, you'll see what starts to work, see what kind of voice you want, you'll find a pace. The whole thing will come to you, but you can't really plan it in advance unless you've done it before and you're like, okay, I'm going to do what I did with that other magazine thing that I did, I'll do it for this. If you're new to content creation, you just got to start by starting and figure it out, and know that you have carte blanche to totally suck for a while, and it will suck for a little bit, and you won't have a lot of necessarily, you can get lucky, but you won't necessarily have a lot of views for a while. And you can look at the first 10, 20 episodes of any freaking million+ subscriber YouTube star, and their first 20 videos are terrible. Podcasts, terrible. Everybody who's great started out terrible. So you just got to find your groove. But I do think LinkedIn makes a lot of sense. I think that you were kind of mentioning too, like you having some kind of you had talked about Founders Live events in person, and and then creating online content as well. Like what's the is the in-person events have such higher leverage, torque and whatever over online interactions with people, and yet they're so much smaller in scale. You might be talking to have a great conversation with one person, or with 2 or 3, or a room of 30 if you're giving a talk or you're on a panel. But yeah, live events can't be overlooked. So the fact that you're going out there, not just as a community member, but also as somebody who's gonna, you're doing a webinar, you're going to be on center stage at some point here. Those are great ways to supplement the online content. You can point people to these pieces that you've done. I think the other thing to think about too, aside from who you're talking to, how you want to say it, and the format of that, is Oh God. Wait a second here. Oh God, I just totally drew a blank. Nick, this is like earlier the thing when I like
Dude, the
forgot
fog.
Brian's other point. And then I remember it.
Well, hey, Luis, you're we'll give you a few minutes to think because
Okay.
you're going through
I had it right there. And then
you're going through the
I
fog,
looked
man.
at the
The
grid and
fog.
I'm like,
Well,
ADD.
the fog is a real thing. Anyway, yeah, just I would just the last thing. Hey, and then Brian, if you have any thoughts, feel free to share them. But I would just say like, just to supplement here is just really go back to start with what is organic to you in terms of the message you want to share, organic to the company, that you view something that's going to be enjoyable. You're experimenting, it's going to be, hey, let's try this. And then, the absolute beauty is to have a situation where you're like, you look forward to like the experience every week or whatever the frequency is, and you're having fun with it, and it's creating great content, and it's building the brand externally in the market. Like that's the combination. So, brainstorm, figure it out, talk with the team. You're going to find something that is going to feel really, really organic and a good fit. Brian, did you have thoughts?
Yeah. I don't see a whole lot of law ads, but I just get the feeling that a lot of them aren't focused on more so benefits than features of what they can provide. And so maybe focusing on the benefits that you provide, like peace of mind and time savings. Like if I'm going to purchase real estate, I don't have to go find all the forms on whatever website, this and that. Just all of those things put together. And so I think webinars would be great. I'm really close to a partner at a law firm here in Phoenix, and she is just starting herself, putting together webinars on writing. She likes appellate work, and so that's her specialty, that's her niche. And she's kind of in the same boat, but she's pulling the trigger, and as Luis said, just starting to start, and if it sucks at first, then it sucks at first. And my interest was piqued, with when you said that you did law, and then I saw the link in the chat there, and I think that this, by nature and what it is kind of helping. It worked on me. I'd like to reach out to you and ask you some questions. So I don't know. It seems like you're making the right steps as far as being in the right circles and seeking out additional ones.
Thanks for that. Yeah. Oh, Luis, do you want to say something?
Yeah, I remember the thing.
Perfect.
So you're making these in-person appearances. You have special pieces like webinars and talks, and you have 3-minute videos. You have LinkedIn posts. Perhaps the post is what you might send people to, but ultimately you keep in mind the target, like something rather than just, your law firm's general webpage. Hey, I've been talking about this stuff. Go to .com/blah to hear more about this specific issue or point or thing that you've gripped people with. They can go there to take some action or learn the next thing or have some kind of thing. Just that ultimate kind of like resolution for something to do for people to do with that grip that you have on them, versus choose your own adventure by going to our website. Keep that in mind, an ultimate trap or lead gen or whatever it is.
Thank you guys for that. Yeah. I mean, lots of great kind of insight. And I think Brian, was interesting what you said was like, it's not more like, okay, this is why like independent contractor agreements are important. It's like, it's kind of going beyond that of like, by doing this, you're going to give yourself like a peace of mind, or like, these are the things that you're going to avoid in the future. So more kind of working backwards to be like, oh yeah, like I don't want to have to deal with that, or like, oh, that's going to make my life a lot easier. So I think that's a great perspective that I definitely can use as I'm like planning all of this. And yeah, I mean, I think it's one of those things that's like, when it's on my to-do list, sometimes it feels a little like, oh, I don't have the time, but I feel like when I talk about it, it's something that does sound kind of like exciting, and to be involved in that content creation. So this is very kind of inspiring for me, and I think what I needed at this point. And yeah, kind of use, I think LinkedIn is like a good place for me to start, but then like, okay, how can we connect people maybe back to the website, or connect them to a webinar for them to sign up with, maybe instead of just like linking only to the webinar, and kind of doing things like that. So
yeah, I have a colleague who is a marketer, and she decided to she's like, I'm just going to start doing these, selfie video style videos on LinkedIn. I've seen other people do them. I think I need to do it. I'll at least give it a try. And she made a commitment to do like, I'm going to do like an everyday post. I'm going to say something salient to my audience that shows that I know what I'm talking about. And, she was really, really reluctant to do it. You could kind of tell from the way she was starting, but very quickly found confidence in a rhythm, because the confidence comes from just from the habit of doing it. And so you'll be more comfortable as you go. And the only people, and that's also the bonus of having a small audience is at the beginning is, there's, if you feel bad about what you're doing, your audience is going to be people, few people will see it. And those that do are probably people that know you and already care about you. So yeah, you're in good hands. It's funny because I say this to you when I do that myself. I think I still think it's kind of daunting, but I applaud anybody who does it. I think it's great. And I think I really do see people that do that as finding success. They really start to separate themselves, because people, a lot of the point of the whole thing is just to yes, it's being in front of people and being like, increasing the number of chances you have for people to see your message, but it's also being the person that cared enough to say those things and knew those things and just you become known for these. You want to be known for something, and you can be known for more than what your competitors are doing. For what I mean? It's just that much more, and it's people sense that.
Nice. Okay. So we are getting close out of time, but I wanted to take this last few minutes and answer Brian's question around pitch resources. And this is not exhaustive, but we do have some partners that are very helpful in how to really build out your pitch deck and your pitch. And so some of these, I'm going to share them in the chat. I'm going to speak about them. First one is Story Fruition, and that's Melissa Reeves. She is a great, she's a pitch coach, and she really helps people understand more of their story, their message, and how to fit that, not just in a 99-second pitch, but even like an investor pitch as well. I have shared storyfruition.com in the chat. And, she's one to, book time with, or, even message and just say, hey, what do you have available? There is, if you're going to work directly with Melissa, there is a pricing structure to that. And that's her business. That's her job. But she definitely has great stuff that is really, really helpful. I'm going to find some, hold on, pitch prep. Let's see. So this page, in terms of pitch prep, so this is specific to a Founders Live pitch. You'll see some information from Melissa there as well. Be aware that is a lot more to craft your 99-second pitch, but you can see some even videos that Melissa has created for us there that is helpful to really just understand the pitch process. Now, the next one I'm going to suggest here is called Scroobius, and I'm sharing that in the chat. Scroobius.com. So SCROOBIOUS.com. It's in the chat. Scroobius on their website says human first fundraising. So founders create a pitch that will finally get you funding. They're actually involving investors as well. Find diversity in founders and increase your pipeline. There is resources on there around actually building out your pitch deck. And I'm sharing the next link is actually a conversation similar to today in some ways that we had with the founder, and her name is Allison. That was last year. We had a conversation around what goes into the pitch deck. She has a formula and really a methodology around that, and shared some resources, and it's a great hour-long video that actually walks you through it. So, what are the fundamental slides that we need to put into this pitch deck? What are some do's and don'ts and all that? So that's a really beneficial conversation. But Scroobius is an interesting tool for that. And then the last one I'm going to share is actually brevity.com, and brevity. So it's brevitypitch.com, BREVIT pitch.com. Comes out of Minneapolis, and another partner that we're bringing in. You can actually see these resources we're actually pulling in to craft an even better pitch prep experience for our founders at Pitch at Founders Live. But Brevity is really essentially that you could call it an AI led. So Pitch with Brevity, easily create powerful pitches with AI. They actually walk you through. So if it's like, all right, whether it's a Founders Live pitch and they have a template of 99 seconds, they actually help you type the words out and develop your flow of the message. If it's an investor pitch, different size, they also walk you through that, and they have a system that kind of learns on itself. So you're putting in only the amount of words and the amount of content that is appropriate for the pitch of that length. And so these three resources, I can tell you, are going to help you and go a long way to help you at least put together that pitch deck. What you don't see there is how to design them. And, I would simply start with design last, in the sense of don't think that you need these flashy, visuals, cartoons, all that stuff. You want to use Brevity and use Scroobius and use Story Fruition to actually figure out what you're going to say. You can always polish the heck out of the slides that you create. Figure out your message first, and you'll get the visuals later.
Awesome.
Brian, does that help? Yeah.
Yeah, that helps tremendously. Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, those are, and we're going to start packaging these in a little tighter. So, and we want to drop that into actually with the membership, people will get, essentially it's the, build your pitch package, if you will. So I wish we had a link that was boom, here you go. Here's all three, but we'll get them there. All right. How about that, everyone? So good to see you all. And, as I travel around this summer, it's nice to, see faces that I recognize.
Hey, Nick, a question, regarding Brian's question about or need around pitch resources. Is there much difference between, like a 99-second pitch presentation and the expectations for, a pitch deck that you would give, even if you're not going to say anything, that's just the deck? Obviously there's a big difference between talking 99 seconds and giving that, but is it a totally different world, or is it just a matter of scale, or anything he should keep in mind in that regard? Brian, I don't know which way you were mostly focused on for your request, but if there are a range of kinds of pitches, I guess.
Well, yeah, my quick answer to that, is, for instance, a Founders Live pitch, you're going to have a deck that is visual, that supports the visual aspect of what you're going to say for 99 seconds. And, you know, those are supportive of each other. But it should be light on words and heavy on visuals, and maybe like, you know, graphical or number representation. A basic traditional, hey, we want to build out our pitch deck, this concept idea with, you know, maybe you give it to investors or partners or whatever. That needs to have I would say more words on there that someone without you can flip through and understand what's going on and be able to, you know, it should have words so they understand the context of each slide. And it's also going to be a lot longer. I would say a general pitch deck is, you know, let's call it 15, 20 slides ish. Founders Live pitch deck is probably 6-8 slides, you know, at most. So, you know, that gives a bit of a context there. But everyone, I want to be mindful of time. We are up for today. This was jam-packed with incredible thoughts, advice, and thank you all for being here. And if you're watching, thanks for watching. And the next Insider Talk is, the date is not, haven't been put on the schedule yet, but you will hear about it soon. And we'll go from there. But for everyone, enjoy your day, evening, night, wherever you are.